My stepmother told me to start paying rent in my own childhood home, while her kids live for free. When I refused, she pushed my father to throw me out. But the moment I revealed the house was legally mine, everything flipped. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happened next. And if you enjoy crazy real-life stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks. So let's go to the story. My stepmother insisted I pay rent to stay in my own home, while her kids lived there without contributing a dime. When I refused, she pushed my father to throw me out. But when I exposed the truth about who truly owned the house, everything shifted. Sandra's grin grew wider. If you don't pay, you'll need to find somewhere else to live. We can't have freeloaders here. I sat at the dining table, my meal long gone cold, her words lingering heavily. The unfairness burned inside me, years of being treated like a servant while her children did nothing. Something finally snapped. So let me understand, I said, my voice steady despite the anger. James, who finished college 2 years ago and spends his days gaming, pays nothing. Melissa, in her 3rd year of college, never lifting a finger for chores, also pays nothing. But I'm expected to pay? Sandra dabbed her lips with a napkin, unruffled. I've decided my children don't need to pay while they're finding their way, she said. A strange calm settled over me, perhaps from years of suppressed frustration or the moment for truth arriving. A smile crept onto my face, not my usual polite one, but something sharper, making Sandra's expression waver. That's curious, I said, leaning back. I'm not paying rent because this house is mine. The room fell silent. James burst into laughter, followed by Melissa's high-pitched giggle. Sandra chuckled too, but it was uneasy. What are you saying? She asked, still laughing. This house is mine, I repeated, holding her gaze. Their laughter faded as my words sank in. Sandra's face shifted from amusement to confusion, then disbelief, and finally near panic. That's absurd, she stammered, grabbing her phone. I'm calling your father. Her manicured nails tapped furiously as she put the call on speaker. The ringing echoed in the kitchen. Hello? My father's voice crackled. David, Sandra said, her tone tight. Ruby's claiming the house is hers. That's not true, is it? A long pause followed. When my father spoke, his voice was uncertain. Well, he cleared his throat. My in-laws put the house in Ruby's name before they passed. You didn't think to mention that? Sandra nearly shrieked. How could you keep this from me? It didn't seem important, my father said weakly. Not relevant? Sandra's face reddened. Not relevant that your teenage daughter owns our home? She hung up, slamming the phone down. The kitchen was quiet except for the refrigerator's hum. James and Melissa stared at me, stunned. Sandra, breathing heavily, tried to compose herself. Her voice turned falsely cheerful, trembling slightly. This is a misunderstanding, Ruby. Let's forget this talk, okay? I'd lost my appetite. Without a word, I stood and went upstairs. As I climbed, I heard Sandra's harsh whispers mixed with James and Melissa's anxious voices. By 6 the next morning, I was awake, staring at the ceiling, reflecting on how much had changed overnight. Around 7, I heard Sandra downstairs making her coffee. I was about to head down when I caught her voice, low and intense. David, you need to fix this. Your daughter can't stay. She doesn't belong here anymore. She's a problem. I froze on the stairs, holding my breath. After a pause, my father's hesitant voice came. But Sandra, it's her house. I can't just kick her out. Sandra's tone turned sugary. No one's saying kick her out. Just nudge her toward those out-of-state colleges she applied to. Tell her it's for her independence. My stomach churned as my father replied slowly. Maybe you're right. I'll talk to her about moving out for college. It might be best for everyone. I waited until the call ended, then walked into the kitchen, face neutral, pouring cereal as if I'd heard nothing. James and Melissa entered, looking uneasy. Sandra came in last, phone in hand, chirping, Good morning, everyone. We sat, the only sounds the crunch of cereal and clinking spoons. Then, casually, I said, Starting next month, you'll all pay rent. The kitchen went still, the clocks ticking loud in the silence. Sandra stared, bewildered. James and Melissa froze, spoons midair, exchanging nervous looks. Sandra forced a laugh, almost a sob. You're joking, right? No, Sandra, I said firmly. You've lived here free for years. It's time to contribute. She swallowed, trying to regain control. We're a family. This doesn't make sense. We're not a family, I cut in, patience gone. You made that clear when you demanded I pay rent while your kids did nothing. Now, everyone's treated equally. James scoffed, feigning confidence. This is ridiculous. I'm not paying. Then find somewhere else to live. I shot back, staring him down. Melissa, usually quiet, spoke up. I'm in college. How can I pay rent? Maybe you should have thought of that before spending on parties and clothes, I replied. But I'll keep the rent fair and can help you find a job. Sandra slammed her hand on the table. You've lost your mind. This house is our home, not a boarding house. I held her gaze. Funny, Sandra, because yesterday I heard you trying to get my father to kick me out of my own house. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Her face paled, speechless. Melissa looked faint, and James stared at his plate. I was just helping you be independent, Sandra stammered. Oh, of course, I said sarcastically. So kind of you to push me out of the house my grandparents left me while you and your kids live free. She tried to speak, but I raised my hand. I've decided. You'll all have formal contracts. If you stay, it's on my terms. Sandra stood trying to assert authority. This is unacceptable. David won't allow it. Call him again, I said, or ask what he'll do if I kick everyone out and sell the house. Her shock was almost satisfying. She knew I could do it, and it terrified her. That night, I heard muffled arguments downstairs, Sandra likely scheming to regain control. But I was ready to face her. The next day, I called a meeting. Sandra tried to avoid it, but I insisted. By 10, we were in the living room. Sandra, James, and Melissa looked uneasy, while I was calm. Here are the rental contracts, I said, handing them out. You have 1 month to decide if you stay. Sandra's hands trembled as she read, her face reddening. This is absurd. You can't do this. I can. I own the house, I replied. James tossed his contract down, irritated. This is unfair. We're family. No, James, I said. You're my stepmother and half-siblings who treated me like a maid. If you stay, you pay. The argument lasted hours, but I stood firm. Sandra realized she had no choice. Before leaving, she took a final jab. Your father won't support you after this? I smiled, exhausted but resolute. We'll see. Over the next days, Sandra tried manipulating my father, stirring tension and turning James and Melissa against me. But it failed. They signed the contracts, and the first payments came the next month. For the first time, after years of being ignored, I was in control. I didn't care what they thought. I had the house, the power, and my peace. Months passed, and the tension grew. Sandra, James, and Melissa acted like nothing had changed, paying rent reluctantly, expecting me to relent. I didn't. Payments started lagging, days, then weeks late, with excuses about unexpected costs. James stopped buying games, staying in his room. Melissa quit flaunting new clothes and rarely went out. Sandra looked worn, with dark circles under her eyes. On a rainy night, I gathered everyone in the living room. The mood was heavy. My father sat defeated, while Sandra stood, arms crossed, clinging to fading superiority. James and Melissa avoided my gaze. It's been 3 months since you paid rent in full, I began firmly. I could evict you all. Sandra's eyes widened. You wouldn't dare. I stared coldly. Don't test me after all I've endured. But I'll be fair. I won't charge my father rent, not because he can't pay, but because he's manipulated. Out of respect, I'll spare him. Turning to Sandra, I continued. You've treated me like a servant, ordering me around while your kids did nothing. So you'll stay, but not with money. You'll pay with work. You'll clean, do laundry, cook. You'll be the maid. Sandra paled, hand to her mouth. You're joking, she whispered. I'm not, I said, and you'll wear a maid's uniform. Black dress, white apron, hairnet. If you're working, do it right. She turned to my father, tears falling. David, will you let her humiliate me? He looked uneasy but stayed silent. Dad, don't interfere, I said. You know why I'm sparing you. Sandra needs to face consequences. He sighed, head down. Sandra sobbed quietly and left. The next morning, I found Sandra in the kitchen, wearing the uniform, black dress, apron, hairnet, cleaning the counter with an empty expression. Good morning, Sandra, I said casually. She didn't respond. I grabbed orange juice and accidentally spilled it. How clumsy of me. Clean it up, please. She paused, then knelt, wiping the floor. At lunch, I had her serve me. More sauce, Sandra. Don't spill. Her hands shook as she complied. I watched, savoring the role reversal. Not cruelty, but justice. Later, I called her to the living room. The windows are dirty. Clean them now. She hesitated. It's getting dark. I said clean them, Sandra, or pay rent with money. She bit her lip, grabbed the supplies, and started cleaning. I looked at James and Melissa, watching silently. You two could help, or sign new contracts with higher rent. They fled to their